If I wanted to retire with $2 million or more, here's the first thing I'd accept. Saving the $2 million is the easy part. I know, sounds backwards, but it's true. The hard part is that $2 million creates problems that smaller portfolios never have, and almost nobody builds it in a way that avoids those problems. The people who actually enjoy $2 million in retirement are not the ones who save the most or pick the best funds. They're the ones who built the right structure from the start so that when they got there, the money worked for them instead of handing them a pile of headaches. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 5 things I'd do if I wanted to retire with $2 million or more. Not just how to get there, but how to get there without walking into the traps that come with it. My name's Tyler. I'm a financial planner. Let's get into it. And real quick, if you want someone to look at where you are and build the plan to get you to $2 million the right way, that's what we do at Riverbend. There's a link in the description below to book a free discovery call. All right, here's the first one. The first thing I'd do is build the $2 million across 3 different tax buckets, not one. And this is the move that almost no one makes because the default path leads you the other way. Here's the default. You spend 30 years pouring money into your 401k. It's automatic, it comes out of your paycheck, and you get a tax break today. So by the time you've got real money saved, almost all of it is in pre-tax accounts. That feels like a win. But at $2 million, it becomes a big problem because every dollar in a pre-tax account gets taxed when it comes out. And at 73 or 75, if you were born in 1960 or later, the government forces you to start pulling it out whether you need it or not, whether you like it or not. On a $2 million pre-tax balance, those forced withdrawals could be $70,000 to $80,000 a year. Stack that on top of Social Security, and you could get pushed into a higher tax bracket for the rest of your life. You're paying money on taxes that you didn't even want to touch. The fix is to build across 3 buckets while you're still working. You got pre-tax, which might be 401k, traditional IRA, tax-free, which would be your Roth IRA, and a taxable account, which is a regular brokerage. When all 3 exist, retirement gets easy because every year you pull from whichever bucket keeps your taxes the lowest. In a low-income year, pull from the pre-tax. You need more without bumping your bracket, pull from the Roth. You're in control. At $2 million, the goal isn't just having the money, it's having control over how it gets taxed. And you only get that control if you build the buckets on the way up. You can't go back and create them after you retire. The second thing I'd do is treat lifestyle creep as the real threat. Because at $2 million, it's bigger than any investment mistake you could make. Here's how it works. As your portfolio grows, your spending creeps up right along with it. The bigger house, the newer car, the nicer vacations, the habits that cost more than they used to, and none of it feels reckless in the moment. It just feels like life is getting better as you get more successful. And by the time you hit $2 million, your lifestyle has often grown to match the balance. And that's a huge trap. $2 million that should have been more than enough becomes just barely enough, not because you didn't save, but because your spending inflated right alongside your savings. The number on the statement got bigger, but so did the life it needs to fund. And here's the part people miss. The discipline that you had to build $2 million, the living below your means and saving the raises instead of spending them, that's the same discipline that has to protect it. But most people drop the discipline the moment they feel rich. They figure, well, we've earned it, so let's go spend. Let's have fun. What I do is tie my lifestyle to my values, not my balance. Spend generously on the few things that genuinely matter to me, and then refuse to let the creep just in because I can afford it. Because the goal was never a big number. The goal was freedom. And lifestyle creep is the thing that slowly trades all of your freedom back for stuff. The third thing I do is refuse to get conservative just because the number got big. And this is going to fight against every single instinct that you have because when you hit $2 million, you feel like you've won. And the natural move when you feel like you won is to protect the winnings. So people just start moving their money into bonds or cash and they lock it in and they tell themselves they're going to be responsible because it feels safe. But here's why that's more dangerous at $2 million. That money has to last 30 years or more, and it does have to fund a bigger lifestyle. The bigger the number and the longer the timeline, the more total damage inflation does to it. Over 30 years, inflation could cut your purchasing power in half. And that money, when it isn't growing, it's shrinking the whole time. And because the number's so big, the dollar amount you're losing to inflation is bigger too. So the size of the number lulls you into the exact mistake that hurts you most. Feeling safe and being safe are not the same thing. Going all conservative feels safe, but it could mean that your money loses ground for 30 years straight. What I do is keep a real portion of the $2 million in growth for the entire retirement. Not all of it, but a meaningful chunk that keeps working. Because at this level, the real risk was never a market drop you could recover from. The real risk is outliving the purchasing power of the money you worked your whole life to build. Now, if you're getting close to a number like this and you're not sure if your money is built the right way, that's the kind of work we do at Riverbend. There's a link in the description below. All right, number 4. The fourth thing I do is protect the surviving spouse from the day I built the plan, not try to patch it in later. And this is the one couples skip almost every single time. Most couples plan for the years they're both alive. They assume the survivor will be fine because there's plenty of money. But the tax system does not treat the survivor like the couple. Here's what happens. When one spouse passes away, the survivor goes from filing jointly to filing as a single. And the single tax brackets are roughly half as wide as the married ones. But the $2 million is still there. The RMDs are still there. So the survivor is now pulling a similar income but getting taxed at single rates. They could end up paying a higher tax rate on less total income than the couple ever paid together. And right now there's a second hit stacked on top of all this. Through 2028, there's a special tax deduction for people 65 and up. $12,000 for a couple, but only $6,000 once you're single. So the survivor loses half of it. And on a $2 million income, they could lose all of it because it phases out as income climbs. Same income, narrow brackets, and a deduction shrinking right when they need it. That's the survivor trap. Sharper than ever, and that doesn't last a year. It could last 15 to 20 years. At $2 million and up, this is one of the biggest hidden costs in the whole plan, and it gets designed in or designed out while you're both still alive. You can't go in and fix this afterwards. So what I do is build for it from the start. That Roth bucket for move 1, it gives the survivor tax-free money to pull from instead of getting squeezed by single brackets. Then you could delay the higher earner Social Security and lock in a bigger benefit for whoever lives longer, and then structure the withdrawals with the survivor years in mind, not just the joint years. None of this is complicated. It just has to be done on purpose, early instead of discovered too late. The last thing I do is the one thing that has nothing to do with investing, and I decide what to do with the $2 million before I ever got there. Most people make the number the goal, $2 million. They go work hard towards it for decades, they hit it, and then something really strange happens. They feel anxious instead of free because they never decided what it was for. So the $2 million just becomes a thing to protect, a thing to worry about, a scoreboard that never quite feels high enough. And this is the part that surprises people. Some of the wealthiest people I've ever worked with are the most anxious. Not because they don't have enough, but because they spent 40 years optimizing a number and never once asked what the number was supposed to do for their life. The money came in, the piece didn't. Here's the truth. The $2 million was never the destination. It's the tool. It buys you freedom, options, security. It buys you time, but it can't tell you how to use those things. That part is on you, and if you don't decide it, the number will never feel like it's enough no matter how big it gets. So, if I wanted to retire with $2 million or more, yes, I'd build it across the right buckets. I'd protect it from lifestyle creep. I'd keep it growing, and I'd protect my spouse. But before any of that, I'd get clear on what I actually wanted the money to do. Because the people who win with $2 million aren't the ones with the biggest number. They're the ones who knew what it was for. Now, a couple of these moves came back to the same idea. $2 million isn't the point. The life it funds is. And that raises a real question. What's the number that actually funds the life you want? Because for some people, it's $2 million. For some, it's less. For some, it's more. And almost nobody runs the real math. I made a video that walks through how to find your actual number right here. And it's not a generic target. We go through 3 numbers that will fit your real life. I'll see you there.